This is a joint meeting of the RTM Finance and Budget Committee and the RTM Education Committee. It is now 7:35, and I call this meeting to order as both committees have a quorum. I want to give some upfront instructions just so everybody understands where we're at. This is a special meeting, so the only thing on the agenda happens to be the DEA contract. And I know everybody's excited to meet Dr. Byrne. That will happen at a later time. So we're going to keep focused on the contract itself. And so we will take a vote individually. And if you have something to say, I'm first going to hand it over to Robin and Eric and have them explain the contract. And everybody should have had the term sheet. And we'll go from there. So, Robin and Eric, it's your show now.
I can just start out just a very brief comments before Eric and Rich and Marge take over. Just so everyone knows, the Board of Ed unanimously approved the DEA contract in late October and completed the negotiations in record time, driven by the work of Dr. Byrne, Rich, and Marge, who worked very tirelessly behind the scenes with the union leadership as well. And we think that we came out with a really win-win kind of contract, which we'll talk about. I wanted to take a moment just to thank also the Board of Ed negotiations team members, Jill McCammon, John Sini, Dave Brown, Joanna Walsh, Dr. Byrne, Rich, Marge, and then also Jim Palin, who was the Board of Finance representative. And just to briefly go over, and I know Dr. Byrne will talk about this, the priorities of this negotiation were really to focus on attracting and retaining teacher talent in a financially responsible manner, and then using that opportunity then to fix the salary grid to help smooth budget fluctuations. And as a result of the contract that we'll go over in detail, I'm really excited that I think we'll be able to achieve our educational priorities over the next few years, helping us to attract and retain teachers during a time of national teachers shortage, which has significantly impacted our district over the past number of years. Additionally, this contract will help us to create a financially sustainable and more predictable budget over the 3 years of the contract due to the strategic redesign of the salary schedule and benefits, which Rich can also give more detail on. Thank you. That's just what I wanted to update.
Thanks, Robin. And good evening, everyone. It's very nice to be meeting with you tonight. I'd also just like to recognize Katie Lublin from the Board of Education, who's also on screen, and thank Rich and Marge, my colleagues, for joining us this evening. So we set out in the beginning of the process to really focus, as Robin said, on recruitment, retention, and fiscal sustainability. On the recruitment side, we've done some analysis in terms of looking at where we compare to our neighboring school districts that we are competing for teachers with, and we made some decisions about how to improve that standing given the challenges of the current teacher shortage. So Rich will speak more in detail about the salaries and what that looks like, but we look to increase the salaries at the lower end of the schedule, so that helps us be more competitive when we're recruiting teachers from neighboring districts, which is essentially what we're doing in the process, and trying to recruit teachers from university even, and hoping that they'll choose us over our neighbors. So that was a big piece of the puzzle for us. Second piece was on the retention side. We've done some analysis the last number of years. We've had teachers on the higher end of the salary schedule leave either to be closer to home or to increase their salary in other places. And what we were finding, because of the lower salary schedule for us, we were not replacing them with younger teachers who are on the lower ends of the schedule. We were having to replace them with teachers that were effectively the same salary that they were when they moved on. And what we don't want to happen is that for those good, experienced teachers who are working with us to move on because it's just fiscally not possible for them to stay. So we added a structure to the contract that is going to recognize that experience in later years of the contract, not in the first year, in the form of what we call longevity payments. And Rich can also explain that a bit further. We also look to a mechanism for us. One of the most important things that we need to be thinking about all the time is increasing the level of teacher skill and having opportunities for teachers to improve their professional craft that we have control over, instead of only being able to get our teachers to improve by them going to universities where they're paying credits for courses. We are now going to have a structure in place called an in-service program that allows us to customize our own courses, so the equivalent of graduate level courses, in content that is specific to the needs of our teachers and our programs, and award credits to teachers at no cost to them. So they have to do 15 hours for one credit of an in-service course that we're running. There's no tuition cost to them, and they can apply a number of those credits for salary advancement. When teachers' salary increases in a contract, it goes two ways. It goes up the schedule in terms of in years, so you move steps based on the number of years that you're working with us. And every number of credits, either 15 or 30, you can move across the schedule to a different lane, and that could also increase your schedule. So for example, moving from a master's degree lane to a master's plus 15 lane, that is historically 15 graduate credits. What we are now able to do is run our own form of graduate programs, and teachers can apply 6 of our in-service credits toward those 15 credits, so that it saves them money on tuition. It gives us total control of the content of the course. It happens outside of the school day, so we're not having to release teachers to go to different kinds of workshops and things outside of the school day. And it allows us to do this across the year based on the needs of the school district. So in terms of the big concepts that we were focusing on the contract, and those were it. And Rich, maybe you can talk a little bit about the financial piece in terms of what we did to the contract itself and where we made the financial improvements, the insurance impacts, and then the overall impact on the budget and looking out several years.
So for those who were familiar with the previous salary schedule, the salary schedule had a lot of bubbles in it. And so what that means is when a teacher moves up from one lane to another, or moves up in experience, you could have a scenario where that bubble could be a double-digit increase. And depending on the mix of teachers, it could certainly have a large budgetary effect. And so what we did with the salary schedule is we started to smooth out all the steps. And so we also wanted to raise the starting salary for teachers. One of the things we learned from the previous contract is a higher starting salary actually allowed us to recruit more younger teachers, which in turn helped us with turnover savings. And so in the past, we were having a teacher leave at the top step, but we weren't able to replace them at the lower step. And so bringing that salary up at the lower end is now allowing us to replace them at a lower step, which then also accrues us some salary savings or some turnover savings. So we made the first 6 steps a growth rate of 3,500, and then steps 7 through 14, 4,000, and then 2,900 at that ultimate step. And so every step kind of has that smoothness through it. We did eliminate the PhD column and converted it to a stipend. And one of the benefits of turning it into a stipend, you don't end up having that growth rate that you would in a typical lane. And then everything was kind of built across horizontally for the contract for the salary table. So as Dr. Byrne mentioned, teachers can go up the schedule 3 years of experience, or horizontally across the lane based on education. And so we started everything based on the master's. That is where the majority of our teachers are. And so if you go from a master's to a master's 15, it's $1,000 differential on the equivalent step. A master's to a master's 30 is a $4,500 differential. And then 9,000 to a master's plus 60. It allowed us to create that symmetry across the scale, as well as that smoothness that we talked about. And then for those who have been following our budget, obviously for the last few years, one of the big drivers that the district has faced is health insurance costs, as most districts in Connecticut has. So this contract, we really wanted to take a look at how we could do some things that would help us bend the cost curve for insurance. And so one of the agreements that we received is to move the teachers to a 3,000, 6,000 deductible. And so right now they're at a $5,000 deductible. And so they are the first teachers union in the state of Connecticut to move to that $3,000, $6,000 deductible. That change in deductible is expected to save over $500,000 just with that one change. And then the other change that we made is with what's called prior authorization. And so one of the things we've seen as a growth rate in health insurance is the increased cost in pharmaceutical costs. And so we've actually seen our pharmaceutical costs double over the last few years. And so what prior authorization does is on a select few drugs, if an employee is prescribed a drug, you have to go through its prior authorization, and that'll determine whether or not that individual employee qualifies for it. And so that, in addition to the deductible savings, is expected to save about $200,000. And so what we're really trying to do is bend that cost curve with insurance. And so while the salaries are anticipated to go up a little over $7 million across the 3 years, the insurance savings is a little over $2.5 million over the course of those same 3 years. And so without factoring in any health insurance increases, it's really a net increase of about 9.5%, which isn't really that headline that you would get when you see the contract going up close to 14. But what we're really trying to do is create a salary structure that is stable and attractive to teachers to recruit, but also start to bend that cost curve with insurance. And so when we look at just the teacher salaries alone, it's about a $2.6 million increase. And so $2.6 million is going to, be a little bit less than 2.5% on our budget. And then you factor in some health insurance savings. That's one of the reasons why we're able to bring that forecast that we brought forward to the board in October with the budget forecast at 4%. And we're hopeful to be a little bit less than that when the final budget comes out. But the goal of this contract really was to create those smoothing of the steps and really create long-term savings and insurance. And then those savings and insurance can be used in negotiations with the other unions that the Board of Ed has.
Rich, if I might add two other things. I know that the administration and board has been working for a number of years on how to reduce the absenteeism, and I saw that there's a new provision in there. Do you want to just briefly go through that?
Sure, I could jump in that. Rich, you can as well. It's effectively an attendance incentive. So for teachers in the first half of the year, if they have no more than 2 absences, excluding bereavement or professional development that the district assigns to a teacher, they can earn a bonus of $500, and that repeats in the second semester of the school year. This has worked in other districts that I'm familiar with, and we believe it will have a significant positive impact on our teacher attendance.
The other thing that's just a slight adjustment, I know from my own perspective, the cost to our teachers because of their health care has gone up based upon the deductible plan that you adopted. But it looks like there's a slight offset in what their contribution to the plan was from prior years. Is that a correct assumption?
So they'll still be paying 23% of a cost share,
which is pretty
which is towards the
high.
high of Lower Fairfield County. So it isn't being reduced, but it isn't increasing either.
Right.
So the goal was to focus on the other areas of insurance.
Yeah, but that's good with the increase in the healthcare. That really saves them money on the other side also on what their contribution is. But I knew that we were amongst the highest in Fairfield County, and we're definitely higher than what the corresponding Board of Selectmen employees pay as well. So I just wanted to notice that. Are there any questions? And I'm to say, okay, so Pierre.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for the summary. It was very clean and easy to follow, so I appreciate that. The deductible, is it considered a high deductible so the teachers can contribute to an HSA?
Yes.
It is. So that's I'm presuming that's part of your thinking because that allows the teachers to
So,
contribute
so
funds.
teachers can obviously contribute more than what the board contributes as part of
Right.
the deductible course amount, and then they can obviously accumulate money over time, which is a benefit for them. So that if you're a rather healthy teacher and you're accumulating money in your HSA, maybe you get older and you have some type of illness that occurs, you have that savings account for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking around. Are there any other questions? Peter.
Hi,
Yes.
good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I have a couple comments on the contract, but before I go there, I just want to, because our first meeting after the election, so I just want to acknowledge Jill McCammon and John Cini for all their work and exemplary public service over the last number of years, and want to congratulate and wish best of luck to Ms. Nelson and Dr. Byrne. So my comments on the budget are twofold. One is budgetary impact, and the second one is operational and teacher development. So the budget, from budget perspective, I think the team did a wonderful job, and it was summarized here. So I'm going to go through it. You know, the headline 4.7 goes really down to 3.2, and the turnover really goes down to 1.5. If you think about it, we have a high turnover. I mean, it was an interesting comment that Dr. Byrne made, said that in the last couple of years we replaced people, teachers who are leaving with similarly compensated teachers, older teachers, and I just want to confirm, maybe with Mr. Rudel, that the 800,000 turnover estimate that we have in the budget that basically takes this number to 1.5% is reasonable. I mean, we're going to go through the budget later, but that's obviously important as well.
Yep. So the forecast that we put forward assumed 35 teachers would turn over. We saw about 38 teachers turn over this current year, which is down from 70 from the prior years. And so again, raising that lower end step is making us more competitive. And so one of the things we saw this year is we started to, while we had less quantity of teachers turnover, the savings was greater. And so that 800 that you also see in the budget forecast that we put out also includes savings associated with some of the new salary schedules that we've gotten for our non-certified unions as well.
I think the biggest plus for me is that we're lifting the bottom quite a bit. Not only for recruitment, but also I think it's good for the community. I mean, I think aspirational goal for all of us here should be that all the teachers live in Darien, right? But it'd be good for the community. It'd be good financial as well, because probably retention goes up. I know the best performing countries and districts and charter schools have people living as close as they can. Now, the average salary for our teachers over 100,000, median salary in Fairfield County is 75, and Darien is probably 150. So we still have some ways to go.
About 250,000 medium income for the town of Darien.
That's right. That's for the household, right? I'm just talking about a person. Yeah. Right. So we still have some way to catch up, but I applaud the team that the headline number is over 4.5%. Therefore, we hopefully over a generation we can reach this aspirational goal, which at least to me would be wonderful. So that's a plus, lifting the bottom. I also like, and I'm glad we know nickel and diming on the maternal leave, although it's shocking to me that there's only 10 paid days. I wish our community and the society could do much, much better than that. The professional development fund up to 75,000 up is wonderful as well. I wanted to ask whether we, it was 50,000 before. I assume we're raising it because it's been used for folks. I think it's wonderful, but I just want to confirm that maybe with Ms. Sion that
it's fully used every year.
Fully used every year. And the only question I had there on that one is, why do we limit the use to master degree members, master degree professionals? Why not allow the folks with bachelor degrees to use this fund as well?
That's just a convention of what happens in Connecticut teachers' contracts is you are required by the state to get a master's, so this district doesn't normally support teachers in doing that.
Got it. One information in the memo that I wasn't, this is very important contract. This is the most important contract that we talk about, right? I mean, we have 300 teacher, maybe it's 40 million 40 million every year that we spend on this. So how this contract goes, the budget goes, therefore the taxes go, right? So this is so that people know, right? But I guess the question I have that I think where we missed some opportunity, and there's four topics that I had that I would do differently. Maybe the board can address it at some
Peter,
point.
I do want to cut you off. We're not here to renegotiate their contract. So if there's points that you'd like to make, you can send it to them. But this isn't, we're here to discuss the contract as it is written. So while
Jack, let me stop you. I want to express my disagreement on certain things, right? Therefore, there's going to explain my vote later, right? So give me a minute, all right? That I want people to hear it, right? This is a public forum. Maybe the board listens to it. Maybe they address it later. The best performing districts, and we're up there, but we're not, have some kind of floating part of the compensation. I raised it 3 years ago. I raised it 5 years ago, right? We don't have it. There needs to be, it would be wonderful if Dr. Byrne can have some pocket of funds where you can compensate the best performing teachers. Teachers' compensation, which is only part of the job satisfaction, shouldn't be only driven by tenure, but also performance. The system to create it is complicated. How to do it, but I think that's a missed opportunity. The attendance incentive, I don't think this is the best way to do it. I understand logically, operationally, it makes sense, and I understand how we take the money from the pocket of the replacement teachers. But in this case, I think in order to build a high performance organization, there needs to be carrot and stick. And we're doing carrot here. I would do stick. People, we shouldn't be rewarding people for doing what they're supposed to do. We should be punishing them for stuff they're not doing, right? This is a normal, at least that's my opinion. And there are two minor things. The tuition you explained, I understand. The last one is coaches. I'm confused every year why coaches who spend the same amount of time on these kids, they're wonderful professionals, each make different number. Football is its own different category. I don't want to talk about sports too much. We're too focused on sports in this town, but I don't understand why a football coach should be more compensated, or assistant football coach, quite frankly, than a track and field coach or rugby coach. It's neither here nor there, but I know the board will talk about these things at some point, hopefully, and hopefully we can address it in the next meeting. The only questions I have that I was missing in the memo is if we could compare the recent turnover. I guess Mrs. Rudel just mentioned it, 35 people, right? And how does it compare maybe historically? I know 3 years ago we had 70 people. So I guess it's trending the right way.
So this past year we had 38. This current year we had 38 teachers leave. Prior 2 years we were high 60s and we had 70 teachers turnover. Prior to COVID, we were in like the high 30s to low 40s. So we're kind of like reverting back to that.
Normalized. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. And the last point is, as I said, I think job satisfaction is partially financial, but also partially other things. And that's something I would love the administration and the board to spend time with the teachers to see what other things are there that impedes them from performing their job. I know they love to be in front of kids, and I know there's a lot of non-student facing activities that they do, whether it's the 504 meetings and all the other stuff. So I guess the question is, how do our numbers compare to the neighboring districts we're competing in Fairfield County? Now with the top, bottom, average, you guys looked at it. Are we now on par with New Canaan and Westport? Compensation?
So on the lower end scale, we're higher than both. We're actually much closer to where Greenwich is, which is probably our number one competitor in Connecticut. But we've eclipsed Westport and New Canaan in terms of most of the grid.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Yes.
Jack, I have a couple questions. I am just, can someone tell me, I know we talked a lot about smoothing out the pay schedule. I'm not sure what we mean when we say smoothing out. And
Sure.
I see it in a lot of the different documents we received.
Yep. So it used to be in the current schedule. Good examples when you went from step 19 to 20, it was like a 10% increase,
Yeah.
moving from that one step to the next. And so what smoothing out means is you're giving the same dollar increase across steps. So if you're going from step 1 to step 2, you're getting 3,500, 2 to 3, you're still getting 3,500, 3 to 4, 3,500. And then when you get to 7, you're getting 4,000, so a little bit more, and then it stays at 4,000 for a while, and then eventually it goes down to that $2,900. And so it's creating a level of consistency across the steps.
And
Okay.
for budgeting purposes, Liza, so instead of it being a percentage off of an individual salary, it's the same flat dollar amount for everyone. And so
Okay.
we can predict, it makes it easier for us to forecast our increases from one year to the next.
Okay. Thank you. And just for as far as the lanes go, we removed the PhD lane, and I just wanted to understand, to explain, how the schedule has changed. And when we look at it says MA plus 15, MA plus 30. I'm sorry if this is a stupid question, but is that years or is that credits? What are we talking
No,
about?
it's not a stupid question at all. It's MA plus 15 is 15 graduate credits, 15 credits above the master's degree.
Okay.
MA 45 is 45 above the master's degree.
Okay, and that's why because we just don't have enough teachers to even make use of the PhD column. Is that
So we have
why
about 13 teachers who were on the PhD column. So one of the reasons we've converted it to a stipend is so we still want to be able to attract PhD candidates, especially if it's like a psychologist position. But taking it out of the column structure takes away some of the growth that you would see in that. And it is something that you see more in like administrator contracts. They are more of a stipend as opposed to a lane.
But Rich, you just mentioned something, so let me reiterate this, which we probably should have said at the beginning. While we constantly call this the teacher's contract, it covers all professional certified staff other than administrators that are in our district. So it includes the school psychologists, it includes social workers, it includes other guidance counselors. It's not just for the teachers. So that's an important thing to recognize on what this really means. We just call it the teacher's contract. Jan. Oh, go ahead. Go. Jan, wait. Liza, continue.
Hold on, Jan. I'll be real quick. Just so I understand, someone mentioned the maternity leave. It's my understanding that teachers are covered under the Connecticut FM, the Family Medical Leave Act. Is
Yes.
that right? That's how they take their leave? Is that how that works?
Yes, and so they, in the past, have been able to use their accumulated sick days for the period of disability, but especially for younger teachers, it was a struggle to take the other 6 weeks unpaid. So we've allowed them, if they have those days in the bank, to add 10 extra days of paid leave to their 12 weeks of family medical leave.
Okay, thank you. I'm done, Jan.
So, you just talked, Jack, about the fact that this contract covers all the professionals in the district. I'm wondering where the paraprofessionals line up in terms of the teacher's contract, or what kind of agreement we have with the paraprofessionals.
That is, again, I'm going to cut you off. There's a separate union for that. We will deal with that contract also. It doesn't relate to this one.
Great.
Again, I want to keep us focused on this contract.
That's why I asked.
Super, Jan. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just have a quick question. I was just curious, and this is to Dr. Byrne. This is Karen Knapp. I love the idea of the in-house or whatever your in-service,
Yes,
so that you
service.
have credits. So my question is, do we in the district currently have people that are certified to do such a thing, to offer such classes or courses to their fellow teachers, or where are those people coming from?
That's a great question, Karen. So we do have, there is no certification necessary. It's just expertise. So we have some amazing teachers and administrators who could deliver content really, really well. And we will have a process internally to determine who gets to teach those courses. But it really will be driven based on district needs. So, for example, we're doing a tremendous amount of work in literacy right now, and the board supported getting a whole cadre of teachers certified in Orton Gillingham, which is an important approach in the teaching of reading. That now gives us a group of certified OG people that could turnkey that work and help us expand the knowledge base of OG practices beyond that cadre of teachers that are in that cohort. So that's a perfect example of one way we could do it. But we have some incredible people that can do some really good things for our staff. And frankly, we have the ability, if we think there is someone from the outside that we can manage through our budget, who can add value through an in-service course, we'll be prepared to bring them on board as well.
To add to that, one of the values of that is to do this is to significantly reduce cost to the individual who's participating in this. And you're really making sure that what credits they're getting is consistent with the strategic goal of the district. So that's another good advantage.
And teaching the course will earn credit as well as being a participant in the course. So we get to support our teachers' growth in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, that's a win-win. Any other questions? As I'm flipping between two boards, so if I'm missing somebody, I apologize. All right. So what we need to do, and I'll first do F&B, I need somebody to move the motion not to reject the DEA contract. We do not approve it. What we do is not reject. Beth, I see you moving. I have a second. Do I have a second there? I have Pierre only because I can see who's in my thing. Okay. Is there any further discussion, or are we ready to vote? We're ready to vote? Okay. I'm going to quickly call out names because I don't have everybody on one list. So if I miss you, I apologize. If you could just say yes, that's fine. Doug, a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Beth?
Yes.
Laura? Just put your thumb up if I do it. That's fine. Good. Charles? I have two Charles. I'll do Charles Powers first.
I support.
Oh, I put that twice. Okay. Pierre?
Yes.
Yes.
Peter Alfanos?
Yes.
Bill Dunn?
Yes.
Charles T?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Is there anybody on F&B that I missed? Seeing none, we're unanimous. Liza, all yours.
Thank you. For folks that are still on for education, do we have any further discussion? Okay. I'm going to move that we vote not to reject the proposed contract between the Darien Board of Education and the Darien Education Association. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I see Mary Nevin. Okay, everyone in favor of not rejecting the contract, please raise your hands and keep them up so I can see you. I see Mary Nevin, Karen, Jan, Peter, Stephanie, Ashley, Karen, Ann. All right, that's unanimous for education. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. There's only one thing I do want to say is in the latest weekly letter, if you have not had an opportunity to look at the fireside chat, please do so. I found it to be rather entertaining besides being informative.
You were there, Jack. You watched it as well?
I laughed. I did laugh. My favorite line, though, Eric, happened to be when you said, "I only use doctor when I'm speaking to my older brothers." I truly appreciated that. So with that, I'll take a motion from actually both committees at the same time to adjourn. From F&B, I have Pierre and I have Mike.
Stephanie.
Okay.
And I will second.
I want to thank the members of the Board of Ed and the administration that took the time out of their evening to come join us. And I want to thank everyone who is on this meeting. Just everybody say aye, and we're done.
Aye.
And I did make
Aye.
the over
Aye.
under of 45 minutes.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.